Really? Can you feel the tension in the air right now? I know I can.
Yes, 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 yes!
Yes, yes, yes!
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Netflix Devil May Cry video, but in this one, I'm going to be reviewing the series since it's out in its entirety, talking about and reviewing each episode and talking about my theories near the end and stuff like that. And also, because I'm a Devil May Cry fanboy, I don't want to be overly biased, so I do have a lot of critiques and what I like and what I didn't like about the show and stuff like that. But there are going to be major spoilers, so if you haven't watched the show, what the hell are you doing here? Go watch it, then come back, and then let me know some of your thoughts in the comments down below, whether you agree or disagree. But with that all out of the way, let's actually get into the review, talking about episode 1. Now, when it comes to episode 1, I really enjoyed it. It did do a lot of unique stuff, introducing us to the thieves and also the White Rabbit right off the gate. And yes, it was a museum, not a church, like a lot of people were trying to argue and kind of debating with me on that front. Of like, with that aside, it was actually a pretty interesting sequence and a really interesting first episode, giving me a lot of Devil May Cry 3 vibes, mixing that with like Devil May Cry 2's intro just a little bit. So it has like that uniqueness. And the White Rabbit had this unique, scary fear factor where he was very calculating, just screwing with these mercenaries. He butchers them. And that was pretty awesome. Like the animation was great, and the first episode, I would give it a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. And what they do when it comes to Easter eggs and some of the setup elements are pretty interesting. I would say some of the criticism that I would have with the episode is some elements go by too fast while others go by too slow. I will say, as a game fanboy, I did think it did take me a while to get used to the fact that, Dante's voice is different, but also that they are not following the rules of the games. They are doing their own thing. And once I realized that and kind of got myself into a remake sense when it came to Resident Evil, I did actually flow a lot better with the show, and I had to get used to that. So if you're going in there and expecting things to be one-to-one with the games and stuff like that, don't, because that will hindrance your experience. And it kind of did it for me a little bit at first, but I did get used to it, and I did start to like it a lot more. As for other moments in the very first episode, like Dante rescuing the baby and, their mother and other stuff that happens, I would say those are kind of nice. The animation does shine in the fight scenes a lot more compared to the original anime. I would say there is that, and there was a kind of interesting scene, a little bit corny, and then you have the diner scene, and him getting hit on, and the stuff with Plasma, which was pretty cool. And I kind of wish I didn't watch that scene ahead of time, but it's like, hey, it's still pretty cool, and you actually still have that fight sequence and all that. I would say that the animation does show and really shine in a lot of areas when it comes to the fights and other stuff. When it comes to episode 2, I would say that this one, it was good. It does set up the mercenaries. It does set up some of the other elements of the story with the main mercenary guy that looks like Joe Biden, which is actually the vice president. The humanity stuff was actually pretty interesting, and the stuff with Lady, because it does go back to like the George W. Bush, thanks to Heavy Spoilers for pointing that out, and all that stuff. So it was kind of an interesting parallel. And there is a lot of that along with like flashbacks to Lady's past and some other stuff. And then we get our first Devil May Cry 2 cameo with Sia, who actually does, make an appearance, and she gets captured along with some other different hunters that are callbacks to the Devil May Cry mangas and stuff like that. And Lucia being captured was actually pretty interesting. And we do have like, Lady's group and their mercenaries. And I do feel like her crew was kind of underdeveloped in a lot of different ways, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And this episode, I would give it a 6 or a 7. It's not bad. I just feel like it does kind of go along more with the political and the more side of that story and pushing more of the humanity side. And it's kind of like, okay. And it sets up the mercenaries going after Dante pretty well. And we do see that. And along with some Enzo stuff where he actually makes an appearance. And that was fine. Kevin Conroy's vice president character is very unique. I really like him because he had this unique menace, and he's very cold, very calculating, and he gave me Hush vibes, and I really like that. And I personally thought it was interesting to not have Arkham in this series, but have different characters that pull from aspects of that character in a lot of ways when it comes to Arkham, and his influence kind of be felt through the series. series with characters like Lady and other various other stuff. There is like flashbacks between Dante and Virgil that kind of fill in some gaps. As for like episode 4, 5 and stuff like that, 3, 4, and 5 were not my favorite. There were some good moments. I really like some of the action and stuff like that. I personally feel like it does show that the characters that Lady hangs out with are underdeveloped. You do get a lot of action and Dante unlocking the Devil Trigger in one of these episodes, and I thought that was pretty cool. And honestly, the Devil Trigger's design, I don't know how I feel about it. I do think it does pull a lot from the other Devil Triggers, like 5s and 4s, while also taking elements from 3. So I feel like it is unique. You do get Lady's and Dante's relationship kind of being fleshed out just a little bit, and I honestly think that it was cool. I think episode 6 was probably my favorite because it handles Lady's origin very uniquely, and you actually do get to see like Arkham's descent into madness compared to Devil May Cry 3, where it was like hinted at. He goes from a loving father, you know, he was slightly obsessed, but he does become a demon, and you actually do get to see the death of Lady's mom. And I feel like that was very interesting, and it does kind of set up her character in the same way they do with the White Rabbit with his human self. And it was very gruesome, very dark, and I really love it because you do get to see that sense of like a fear, and also, you know, the parallels between these two characters and actually how they meet and their worlds will cross in a lot of different ways. As for the ending, I feel like it does set up season 2 pretty well. I do like a lot of certain aspects of things. I do feel like, you know, the Virgil inclusion and other various stuff with like that was pretty interesting, and I feel like his inclusion into the series, like a brief cameo by Plasma, but also them not culling a Devil May Cry 3 route completely and him actually working with Mundus compared to being completely controlled, was fairly unique, and them also having the ties between the White Rabbit and him and how he gets the amulet from Virgil and other various stuff was kind of left up to our interpretation. They don't really spell it out for us. As for other things in the finale and the conclusion, I thought it was pretty cool. I do like a lot of the fight scenes. The ending of the White Rabbit was nice, and they do like ease some Devil May Cry 2 stuff with Argosax, and they actually change and Arius, his company, to Ouroboros, and there's like some teases for that and Mundus stuff, so I really don't know where they could be going. I do like what they did. There is like a mixture of like Devil May Cry 2, Devil May Cry 1, and stuff like that for what they could do. I feel like some of the critiques that I would have are like certain characters I do feel like are underdeveloped, and certain aspects of the story I feel like could have been more refined and shown a little bit more. They do tease a lot of Devil May Cry 2 stuff for the second season, which is great, but some of the Virgil stuff I feel like was kind of rushed in without really much forethought. Now, maybe that's just me, but also like some characters like Lady's tag team, I feel like could have explored her backstory with theirs a little bit more to make us care when they actually do die. And certain designs and certain things I feel like were great, but I kind of didn't vibe with everything. Certain characters like Echidna and also Cavalier kind of felt wasted in this show. Like even Plasma had its moment to shine in empathy, but you know, these two really didn't show. Agni and Rudra were fine. Only one of them got an iconic death that, you know, foreshadows what they could have became in Devil May Cry 3, but that's really about it as an Easter egg. They don't really get a chance that they could come back. And that was really my biggest, you know, gripe is like, you know, some of these characters, if they're killed off, could they come back or could they just be staying dead? And if so, they're kind of wasted. And that kind of sucks, you know, because like these are iconic, cool characters. But overall, these are all just my opinions, so make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified. Let me know what you think of the review, what you think of the show in the comments, and all that jazz. And peace out. Bye-bye.